It really wasn't until now, like the last 30 minutes to an hour, that I realized that this is a really intense project. This is not like oh, it might take me a little longer than normal. This is gonna take ages. I don't often do, here's a designer garment that I like, let me see if I can recreate it kind of projects, although I do have a fairly large collection of inspirational garments saved. I'm actually not sure I've ever done one. Have I ever done one of those? And actually, we're not even really doing that today, because I am not at all going to try to recreate my inspiration garment. I'm gonna try to make something in the same vein, but totally different. We are speaking of the stained glass dresses from Oscar de la Renta. This is the one that I've seen the most, but in doing a very brief research, I discovered that this is seemingly a whole era for them, and they've done multiple different versions of this technique so far. I think this one is my favorite. I really like the color palette, and I like that you can tell that it's flowers with green leaves behind it kind of thing. I also discovered that when you search stained glass dress on Google Images, you pretty much get theirs and then dresses that are made with fabric that's been printed to look like a stained glass, and AI concoctions, because of course. But yeah, serious lack of exploration in wearable stained glass apparel. I am personally fascinated by stained glass as an art form. It's on my list of things that I want to try one day, things that I want to fully immerse myself in one day. Matt and I took a little weekend trip earlier this year, and the bed and breakfast that we stayed in had some of the most stunning stained glass I have ever seen. Hopefully I'll be able to dig up the pictures for you. We of course aren't actually making stained glass, not today at least. We are attempting to make a garment that resembles, or at the very least calls to mind, stained glass. Now, I didn't want to look super far into how the De La Renta dresses are made, because I just know for surezies that I will not be using that method. But I did see one reel that said they are created with hand-dyed plexiglass. Yeah. No. I am just an at-home sewist with limited time and skills and tools. So I immediately thought felt. Colored felt on a black background. Right? Right? First things first, we gotta do some tests. First things really first, gotta get rid of my latest puzzle. Y'all, I am so into puzzles now. They're addictive. As soon as I finish one, I just immediately want to start another one, which I can't. Have you ever seen those old newspaper articles where parents are like, these kids with their hoops and sticks, it's so addictive. Their brain development is gonna be ruined by the hoops and sticks. In the same way that people nowadays are like, these kids with their iPads or video games or whatever it is. I swear I've seen that, like somebody who does research posted one. I should have saved it. It just cracks me up because nothing ever changes. Details change. Humans remain exactly the same. Can I pick this whole thing up? Yeah, I can. Ooh. Whoever you are, whatever age you are right now, there will very likely come a time in your future where you will find yourself saying, these kids and their insert whatever the new thing is here. Anyway, I thought of that because I wonder if that happened when puzzles like these became big, if kids got like super invested in them and just wanted to work more puzzles, and parents were like, these kids with their puzzles stuck inside staring at gaudy paintings. When we were your age, we were running around outside with our hoops and sticks. When were puzzles invented? I mean, obviously, like, the concept of puzzles goes way, way back to ancient times, but I mean this kind of flat image on cardboard style of puzzle. I don't know, maybe I'll look that up later, but we were here to test felt stained glass. Ooh, that was loud. Did you enjoy that puzzling rabbit trail? I've got some black fabric to use as the background, and I just want to see, one, what does it look like if you make sort of tile-shaped things out of felt and arrange them, but two, what's the best method for securing them, for sewing them down? 'Cause you know it's gonna be hand stitching. Ooh, this is furry. Where have you been? Good thing I have a massive collection of felt, right? Why do I have so much felt? This is a good shape because it has 3 different angles: acute, obtuse, and right, which when it comes to sewing things down, I don't know, I'm thinking about like whip stitch, running stitch, back stitch, blanket stitch. So your corners matter. Also potentially French knots, because if you look at the De Laurentiis dresses, the way that they attached everything, like you can see the little dots on each of the plexiglass tiles. I don't really know what that is. Again, I didn't look into it. But like, theoretically, I could just attach the tiles with dots at each of the corners kind of thing. To NYC. Okay. Wanna see? I think they'll look pretty dang cool. Like, this was without measuring anything, so the lines aren't perfect, and like that's weird colors and everything, but yeah, I think this is gonna look pretty freaking awesome, right? Let me test some sewing methods and I shall come back with the results. I immediately don't like the black, which I kind of figured. I was like, why would you want black stitching on top of the colors? So I'm gonna have to use matching thread for every single tile that I use. I tried on the red piece using just regular sewing thread, and this is one of the final ones I'm considering because that's the most invisible. So that's option 1, very thin thread, matching color, whip stitch. The other one that I actually really like is the kind of chunky French knots, where you can just see it. It's still matching colors, but on the purple triangle, I did 3 strands of embroidery floss, I believe, and then I think I did like 3 wrap knots. So the knots are very visible. It's not trying to be invisible, but I don't know, I kind of like that. The French knots would be a lot faster because you're just putting a knot every here and there on the corners and stuff rather than whip stitching around the entire edge. I have time to think about those and decide which one I want though, because I have to make the garment that the stained glass felt is going on. Here's the plan. I want to do a 2-piece thing. So I'm gonna do like a crop top sort of top thing, whatever, and a skirt, because I want the option to bail. Yup, I just want to protect myself. Basically, I want to be able to make a finished piece that will not take as long, step back, look at it, and be like, does this actually work? Is it worth me continuing the process? And if yes, then I'll do the skirt. Hopefully yes, because otherwise this video won't be as interesting if it's just me being like, oh, that actually ended up looking bad, let's bail. You know I'll still put it out either way though. I love sharing my fails with you. I have a nice chunk of very lovely feeling black material. I'm sure it's just polyester, but whatever. Got it at Remainders. I'm gonna zoom out a little. And for the top, I think I'm gonna do the like bow tie shaped thing that I did on, what did I make with this design? My overalls, jumpsuit overall thing in the picnicky. I did like that bow tie top that just has darts like this. And it was pretty simple, and I was like, oh, that would be great if you just put a band around the bottom. It would make a really cute like crop top. And then the skirt, I think I'm just gonna make a circle skirt. I might do it as, you know, my good old split side skirt, because literally at this point, those are easier for me to make than like a circle skirt with a zipper in it, and also safer because if I change size, I can keep wearing it, which is kind of desirable when you make a garment that's gonna take like many hours of hand sewing. This fabric does feel really delightful. It's very like buttery. But we are going to speed run, I believe is the term people use, the making of the garments, because that's not really what this is about. It's about the felt and the stained glass and the sewing of that on. So let's just like skip ahead, maybe? Yeah, let's do that. I'm sweaty, but it's done. I'm not sweaty from making it. I'm sweaty from modeling it a few minutes ago, which is making me think I kind of need to wash it all before I start sewing stuff to it, because once this thing is covered in felt, I don't know that I'll be able to wash it again, and now it's kind of sweaty. Anyway though, I did indeed go with the split side skirt design. Here's a little fun thing though, that I did not notice until I was modeling it today. I don't know how I tried it on so many times and did not notice this. I sewed the back panel of the skirt to the waistband to everything inside out. What the fuck? The pockets, like the opening of the pockets, are now on the inside of the skirt instead of accessible on the outside like they should be. And this is not even an easy fix, because not only would I have to fully remove the waistband and flip the skirt and put it back on, but also I hemmed the skirt with like an actual strip of fabric folded up on the inside. So I would also have to completely remove that and flip it onto the other side. I think the fastest way to fix this would actually just be to stick a new pocket on the front of the pocket, if that makes sense. Which I might leave until later. Because here's the thing, Matt and I are about to go on a road trip for Christmas. So that was why I wanted to get all of this done, because adding the felt to it is gonna be a bunch of hand sewing, and I'm gonna be spending a bunch of time sitting in the car, and I would like to be doing all that hand sewing on this road trip rather than twiddling my thumbs. Not that I would be twiddling my thumbs, I have so much other stuff I could be doing as well. All of that to say, I wanted to have this done, and it is done, except for whoopsies. The back of the skirt is backwards. Lace-eye. Back to the rest of the garment though, I made the first top that I had the idea for, that I told you about, and then I didn't like it. It wasn't fitting properly, it was being weird in certain areas, and I could have tried to figure that out and fix it and make it just look better. But once I put the final design on, I was like, I don't really get how this ties into the stained glass thing. So I scrapped that entirely and made a second top that I like way better for this dress design, for this concept, the stained glass thing. I actually used my favorite dress pattern. I used McCall 7349, and this is the first time I've ever attempted to make a shirt with that rather than a dress, and it's also the first time I've ever used a non-stretch material and put a zipper up the back. I did leave the bottom longer and open right now between the linings so that I'll be able to sew just onto the front part of the shirt. Good words. Great update. It's time for the felt. I'm not fully sure how this is gonna go. I have to, you know, come up with a design here that works with the curves and the shape of this. I know that I screenshotted a stained glass image the other day that I particularly liked for this project. The problem is I can't remember if I screenshotted it on my phone or my laptop or my computer. Let's do some digging. There it is. It was the Palau de la Música. I love the sun motif in the center. I color coordinated all of my felt, woo, so I can kind of see what I have. Like, what if I did this sort of sun motif coming out from the center of the top? Would that look weird? What if I did it coming down from the neckline? So it's sort of sun first. Oh God, I'm getting overwhelmed and this is just the top. Wait till I get to the full circle skirt. I need to draw some things. I have kind of decided, and by kind of I mean I reserve the right to change my mind until it's actually happening, but I've kind of decided to do the French knots on each corner of each tile. One, it will be a little bit faster, but I actually really like the look of it too, because when you sew around the edges, you get this slight like scallopy lumping to the edge of it. And I think without doing that, you get a more straight, clean, this looks like maybe it's something other than felt look, I guess. I don't know, but I think I'm gonna go with that. You know, I could go super simple and just do diamonds and do like a rainbow of colors across the top. This might be the smartest choice because I think if I dive in with something crazy difficult, then it could end up being so overwhelming and not looking that great, and like I'll get discouraged before I even get too far. But that means I can just make a stencil and cut out the same shape over and over again, and I'll get an idea of what it's like to sew them on, how they move around, what makes it easiest, and then on the skirt, I can do some sort of really cool pattern. This is wise. Be wise. Well, give a crafter a day and they will change their mind a million times. I change my mind a lot. So I tried a bunch of stuff. I can't even remember everything I tried. Let me check my photos. Yeah, so I tried like normal diamond pattern, all of the diamonds going in the same direction, and it just looked jestery, or as Matt said, because he couldn't think of the word jester, like a magician. So I tried changing the position of the diamonds and doing like different arrangements so that they're not all up and down. Still just was not loving it. Then I started cutting out some different shapes. So I tried like teardrop shapes and petal shapes and stuff, and already just being in different shapes started to make a difference. So then I tried random shapes, and that is kind of cool. The random shape thing is neat. It just again plays on that whole part of my brain that's like, when it comes to random selection. My brain loves pattern so much that in a desperate attempt to be random and not have pattern, I start to like seek out the opposite of pattern, but then there's pattern in the opposite of pattern. It boggles my brain. It's really hard to do. So anything random like this, as cool as it looked, it still just like seemed overwhelming. And then I finally was like, you gotta just do an image. That's the problem. When I think of stained glass, I think of some sort of motif. It can be really geometric and stuff, but I think in order to make felt look like stained glass, I need to lean into the image. And I know I said I was gonna go simple on the top and then do the image stuff on the skirt, but apparently not anymore. So I went for it and I did a version of the sun, and I just did like cutting randomly and not doing any sort of a plan to see how I liked it, and guess what? I really liked it. I like the idea of the sun coming down from the neckline. The problem was then I was trying to build down from the sun and I didn't know where to go next. So I did some research. I looked at some various stained glass images for the millionth time, and I think the smartest thing to do here is choose images, choose some sort of a design like the sun. I think I want to do a bird of paradise, the flower. I could do a hummingbird on the side. So if I start with the images and place those where I want them, then I can fill in the rest with, you know, a background color and do some leaves and stuff. But I think rather than trying to just start at the top and work down, it will be easier to start in these various places, get an image on first, and then fill in the space around it. And that same thing is going to be true when I get to the skirt, only maximized by like 5 billion. So I started with the sun. I actually drew it out and measured everything and made it even, upgraded my little sun to a bigger sun. It's a little bit bigger. It's like twice the size. And I really like this. It looks like stained glass. I look at that and I'm like, yes, that is a recreation of stained glass. This was the right way to go the whole time. But y'all, the reality of trying to make something really cool is that it is a slow process, and it's not just the making part of the process. The figuring it out part is very slow, and there's gonna be a lot of figuring it out on this garment in order to make it look, hopefully, really cool at the end. So right now, my plan is a very tropical theme over the entire skirt because I want to use all these bright colors. Y'all know I love rainbow and brightness, and I just think it'll look so cool with as many colors as possible. I feel like I have a game plan now, which is great because we're leaving tomorrow morning. How well I can do this in a moving car, I do not know. Day one, I got going with road trip stitching by pinning everything in place and then immediately taking it all back off, because this is really a one-by-one procedure. Despite the bumpy Arizona roads trying their best to derail me, I got the felt sun about halfway stitched before the actual sun set. We started day two with a visit to the Grand Canyon, which is unrelated, but wow, so pretty! I've officially decided I like the French knots look, not that there's any going back now, and I got the sun finished by midday. Wahoo! Now to figure out what the crap is happening on the rest of this top. I was planning to do a bird of paradise, but after sketching one out, I realized it would be better to leave all the leaves and flowers and tropical foliage on the skirt, so the bodice looks totally like sky, yeah? I'm trying to get so much design and detail into the bodice, but it's so small in comparison to the skirt. I think I should stick to some clouds and a hummingbird up here, and then fill the rest in with sky tiles and let the massive real estate of the full circle skirt have everything else. The clouds were fun to draw out, but getting them stitched in the middle of nowhere with the bottom line straight proved tricksy. As in, I failed. It sloped. I cut the whole thing out and started over. Round two I deemed good enough, but the sun had now set, so cloud two had to wait for day three, which began with a stunning sunrise over the flat plains of Texas, and then a boggling amount of thick fog. We aren't driving as far today, but I got the second cloud done and then started sketching out the hummingbird. After 3 attempts, I was satisfied and gonna set it aside, but for some reason plowed on ahead and got all the pieces fully cut out and ready to stitch. Stitching the hummingbird on took the whole morning of the day 4 drive. It was rather finicky, so I kept taking little breaks, but oh my god, it looks so good! I figured this is a good time to try the whole thing on, see how it's looking, make sure nothing weird is happening, and yeah, it's looking pretty cool if I do say so myself. So the entire rest of the bodice is now getting covered in sky blue shapes, and since I still had a few hours before sunset, I decided to get started. The top part where I'm going around the existing pieces was extra persnickety, but I used paper to make the shape first, and then started cutting them out of the felt, and I got a decent amount prepped before the light faded. Day 5 was another half day of driving, but I did manage to get most of my prepped pieces stitched on, and then day 6 I was super sleepy and didn't want to do much, so I just finished those up. And then I didn't work on it for several days because I was kinda busy with other stuff. We went to Disney World. But at last, we packed up all the crap that I had left in storage here 5 years ago, which was the whole point of the road trip, and turned our booties back towards home. Unfortunately, I also picked up a cold while we were there, so day 1 of the return trip was mostly spent wallowing in misery and trying to nap. Thankfully, I was all good by day 2, so we're back to it with this baby. Things did slightly speed up as I moved away from the existing shapes and started filling more open area, so I feel like I got a pretty decent chunk done by the time the sun set. Return day 3 started with another bout of fog. What's with all the fog lately? And at this point, I'm just plugging away until I run out of felt, or so I thought, because alas, turned out to be my blue embroidery floss that ran out first. No! That marked the end of the travel stitching saga. At least until the next morning when we stopped by Michael's and I stocked up on both felt and floss, and now we're back to stitching, huzzah! Got the entire front done, and it still fits, and it's looking so good. Eep! I even had time to do a bit on the back before we arrived home in LA. The road trip is done, and so's the bodice. Yay! Be not fooled, there was like a week spent. Has it been a week? I think it's been more than a week since we got home that I have spent finishing the back of this. It's a slow process. Did I mention that before? It's a very slow process. Also, don't mind the new puzzle I'm working on. Also, the hardest puzzle I have ever done. Not that I've done that many yet, but this is the hardest. It's 50 shades of brown, and the whole thing looks the same, and it's so smeary and smudgy and just like impossible. It's not impossible. It's this one. I got it at Disney World. But see how like monotone the whole thing is? And they also didn't include like a bigger sheet of the image, so you're having to go off of this, which has this covering it up, and yeah, it's very hard. Anyway though, so it has been like several weeks, an entire month since I started this. Get out of the way, puzzle pieces. And I'm very pleased with it. Like, honestly, incredibly pleased. As proof of concept, I think it works great. There's like a little bit of sort of wrinkling or crinkling on the sides, but honestly, I think that's to be expected. That's where you're moving the most. That's where your body folds the most in something. It's not too bad at all. Otherwise, it still fits perfectly. It looks so cool. And I'm trying to imagine it all the way down the skirt as well, and it's just gonna look stunning. It's gonna be so fabulous. As you can probably tell from the length of this video already, this is a bit of a longer project than I anticipated. Of course it is. I mean, also I think I've just been really chatty in this video, so you're welcome. But several of you have encouraged me to split longer and more complex projects into multiple parts of videos, like not just try to cram it all into one, which usually I kind of struggle to do because I do put a lot of effort into the storytelling of a video to make it, you know, flow well and complete and all of that stuff. But I think this is the perfect opportunity to do a part 1 and a part 2 because it's 2 different parts of the garment itself. So we're gonna pause here in this video, and I'm also just gonna pause on this project. I need a break from this. I am committed to fully finishing the skirt and completing this entire stained glass outfit. Like, this has not burned me out on the idea. This is not gonna make me bail. This is making me more committed than ever. But we're gonna do the skirt in another video because that is gonna be a whole beast unto itself. So stay tuned for that. I think the heater's about to turn on. And if you like this concept and you wanna try it, like, I don't know, maybe try it on something smaller or go for it, do the whole garment. But like, wouldn't this be cool? The heater's on. All right, well, let's give that a few minutes. Anyway, as I was saying, I think it would look super cool on a purse, on a pillow. Like, there's a lot of smaller and more manageable things that you could do this like felt tiling to look like stained glass on. We're gonna wrap it up there though, and I will come back to this someday. Before the end of the year for sure. Sooner than that, hopefully. Also, to wrap up that one last thought that was at the beginning of the video that I totally forgot I had, but I looked it up anyway. Puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, were kind of invented in 1762, people say, but it was wooden and it was a map, and it took a long time for them to become this. Apparently, the puzzle industry first really took off during the Great Depression. Fascinating article I read about it. I'll link it in the description if you want to read about it too, but I shall not bore you with all the details. Okay, bye. Sometimes I just need to reassure myself that things are not permanent. Hello. Ouch. Yeah. Ceiling? Don't start checking your phone while you're still. This is just a project. It is not life and death. It is not that serious.